gives me another reason not to cheat on carnivore. Malia, on our last call, that was so interesting and really got a lot of people kind of fired up, was the fact that if you're doing a strict carnivore diet, proper human diet, and you cheat on that diet, it could set you back a long time in terms of feeding the bad gut bacteria for a long time.
When you take bacteria that are very highly evolved, they know us better than we know ourselves. And so when you take that bacteria and you put it in you and they don't want to die, they're going to do everything they can to get your attention. And that can come from food cravings to nightmares to dreams about food. Every illness that your child gets before the age of 7 is extremely good for your child's body. A lot of times the body will sit back and let the entire illness move through, the bacteria move through, because then the other bacteria in the body will help mark and target that bacteria.
It's just amazing how miraculous the human body is, and also how foolish humans tend to be to try to outsmart it or work around it.
We as a people need to stop being scared and stop being manipulated by fear, because that is the main reason why.
Hello and welcome, Carrie here from Healing Humanity, the Power of a Proper Human Diet. And today I am thankful, grateful, and blessed to welcome Malia back to the channel. How's it going, Malia?
Hi, Carrie. So great to be back. Thank you.
It's great to have you back. We did a video a while ago, and it was very eye-opening to both myself and my audience. I thought, Malia, that I was so successful on carnivore. I thought I knew all the reasons why. I'm avoiding junk food. I'm in ketosis. The heart performs more efficiently in ketosis. The brain does. Later in my journey, I realized maybe part of it's because I added this fatty meat back, and it's helping regulate my hormones through getting more cholesterol that's been demonized. And I thought I had it all figured out, and then we spoke, and you taught me more about gut bacteria and gut biome. And it started filling in these huge puzzle pieces that I guess I didn't realize were big parts of the reason why I'm being so successful on a proper human diet. So I'm looking forward to talking to you more about that today. I've got some follow-up questions from the audience from the video we did before, and just questions we weren't able to get to. But before we do that, could you maybe tell us, on the last video we did, Malia and I have done 2 videos together, and the other one was your inspiring personal carnivore story, which is incredible. So if anyone wants to see that full story, we covered that in our last video. I'll have a link below for you to watch that. But Malia, I was hoping maybe you could provide just sort of an abbreviated version of your personal story, and then maybe also tell us a little bit about what you're working on professionally now.
Fantastic. I would love to. Thank you so much, Carrie, for having me back. I love that you're so passionate about this. I am too. Again, I had always thought that I was living a very healthy diet. I did a lot of research. I had an herbalist background, and I had a lot of kids to take care of. So I really felt it was important for me to know a lot about nutrition and health. And I collapsed after having my 7th kid, and unfortunately, no one could help me. I had doctors saying, that I had multiple sclerosis. I had another, test come back saying positive for lupus, being bedridden for over a year, and a host of other horrific things that were occurring. And it just led me to continue to, study and pray and figure out, no, nobody's going to help me here. Nobody in the Western world was going to help me. And then all of the other avenues that I took, even in the natural realm, they weren't working. The reality was we paid so much money to all these specialists and it wasn't working. And so, I had a foundation of faith, and I just looked in and was like, all right, I know that we can do this naturally. And that's where I found so much information that has been around for a very long time regarding the gut, the microbiome, how the body works, how it rebuilds itself, how hormones and nutrients and all of these different things interact in the body, and how we have to nourish that and heal that. And then coming at things from, psychological stance too, because we're not living in a natural way for human beings. An example would be, like little kids, they grow up and they're supposed to be playing outside. They're supposed to be, helping and doing work, around the farm, things like that. But to take a child and expect them to sit still at a restaurant, when they're 4 is kind of crazy. And so what do? We put a screen in front of them. We keep doing things to force children into an environment that isn't natural for them at all. And us as human beings, we're in those environments with between the lights and then the toxins and the food and the constant, oh my goodness, I'm late. Oh, I have to do this. I have to do this. Everything is I have to, and I'm running late and I'm not getting enough. And so being able to take ourselves back to a state of calm and peace, and that comes from a limbic restoration. And so all of these things came together through a program with the Integrated Health Foundation for me, and it was incredible. And so now I'm a part of the organization, and we work to educate, we work to help people heal through intensive programs, and also share how to be human, how to get back to what is good and what is healthy so that we can thrive as a people.
That's incredible. So a big part of our conversation last time, we're talking about gut bacteria, gut biome, and gut health and how important that is. Could you just touch on that a little bit? Maybe sort of an abbreviated version of what we discussed last time?
Well, the reality is a lot of the food that we don't fully digest ourselves. We have an entire ecosystem that is helping us. And this is this isn't just our guts. This is all over our bodies. So even in our mouth, we have incredible bacteria, fungi, protozoa that are working to keep us healthy. And something that's really neat is, most people don't realize you get strep throat. Streptococcus is just one strand of bacteria. But to kill a strep, you have to use another strep. So you can actually use another strep bacteria, as a lozenge, and you can kill a strep bacteria in your throat. So these bacteria are working for us and against us. And so we create an environment within our bodies, both in our gut and throughout the rest of our body, so that we have these bacteria that are helpful and useful and not the opportunistic, harmful bacteria that cause not just ailments in our gut, but mentally and in our lungs and throughout on our skin, everywhere where it can interact and affect us in a negative way. We strive to balance that. And it's actually really good to have a very diverse gut microbial system on the skin and in the mouth and the eyes and the lungs all over. However, we want that to be majority a gut microbial system that thrives on the healthy foods that our body has been meant to eat. And what that means is that you're eating large amounts of proteins and fats. Those do not cause inflammation. Those are naturally healing for the body, and it's what your body is made of. And so it's kind of interesting because I had a naturopathic doctor who was trying to help me, and he was like, I remember going, so shouldn't I be eating meats? And he was like, oh, no, you're too weak to eat meat right now. And I went, what? How does that make sense? He's like, no, your body will have to break down that meat. And that's so much harder. It's like if you gave someone a house and told them to take it apart to build a new house. What you need to do is you need to eat beans and you need to eat, all of these other grains and things. And he said, because these are like the nails and all the stuff to build your house. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. And I did get better. And the reality is it's kind of like you go out into this forest, and if you're told to build a house out in the middle of the forest and you have nothing, that's kind of what your body has to do. Your body is going, you're going to give me some beans that maybe have a full amino acid, maybe they don't have the fats though, they don't have the vitamins and minerals, whatever. I have to go scavenge the rest of the body to find those things. So like you going out to the forest, you're going to have to use your time, your energy, you're going to have to use previous resources to go out, find the wood, find all the things you need to build this house, and then come back. And now you're going to start building it. And that's a lot, that's way more work for your body. Plus, you're going to deal with plant toxins. You're going to deal with so many other issues, injuries, all sorts of things while you're just trying to find what you need. And not to get too much in a sidetrack here, but minerals have antagonistic and protagonistic relationships with each other. And what that means is when you take, minerals in isolation. So a lot of people think they're healthy to take a bunch of zinc. But the reality is zinc actually has an antagonistic relationship with copper. So people who are taking large amounts of zinc, which doesn't happen naturally, they were actually depleting themselves of copper and finding that they're having lots of issues in other areas. And that happened during COVID. And, people who take isolated nutrients. But nature, God, knows better than we do. And in a food like oysters, you're going to have 500% of your body's needed zinc, and you're also going to have 450% of its needed copper. So your body is never having to be depleted when it takes a whole animal-based food.
Quick interruption. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in learning more about our documentary, Healing Humanity, The Power of a Proper Human Diet, or supporting it, please visit donate.healinghumanity.movie. Our goal is to reach millions of people that are hopeless right now, and sharing the examples of real people over the course of 1 year that are undertaking a proper human diet to overcome obesity, type 2 diabetes, depression, anxiety, fertility issues. We couldn't do it without you. We thank you so much. We are also selling these shirts, Healing Humanity, The Power of a Proper Human Diet. Every penny we get from those goes towards the documentary. And last, we have memberships. If you click the little join button, it's best to do it on desktop. Under any one of my YouTube videos, you can join and become a member. We have hundreds of members right now. We do members only videos. We do members only behind the scenes. You can email me as a member and I'll answer you. And every penny from that goes to support the documentary. And the last thing is we have these Redmonds portable salt shakers. These things are awesome. You can get the best salt. You can take it with you. We sell these on the website along with our water bottles and cutting boards, and every penny from all of those goes 100% towards supporting the documentary. You can also sign up for our newsletter, which is completely free. All of these links are in the description below. Thank you so much for your support. Now back to today's video.
It comes with everything that it needs. So it comes with all of the planks of wood, it comes with all the nails, it comes with everything, and it comes with no toxins that your body has to fight off or has to be healed from. And it doesn't just come in these really, stripped pieces that you have to figure out how to build together. They come in an amino acid structure that is ready to use. It's like this pre-built house being delivered to your house versus having to go scavenge the neighbor's, old chicken coop to build something that's going to be good and healthy for you to live in. It's probably not going to be, right? And so understanding these aspects of how food and nutrients interact in the body, and then that there are living organisms within you that can create an environment that gives you healthy neurotransmitters that like serotonin and dopamine that help heal you, that are anti-inflammatory, versus when you eat large amounts of sugar and carbs that bolster and cause inflammation to your body in a lot of different ways, but also kill off healthy bacteria. And so then you have this constant inflammation, you have gut dysbiosis, you have issues with, the inflammation in the bowel, you have depression, anxiety, you start having nervous system disorders with pain, tingling in the body, or heart palpitations. A lot of people will see their hair thinning, or they're starting to get more wrinkles. There's so many things that happen within our body that we think are just age related, or, well, I'm just stressed, that are really connected to not just the food you're eating, but the microbiome within you that is nourishing you, that is giving you what you need to survive, to be happy. When a baby's born, the milk that they get from their mother is specific. It's a certain type of sugar molecule that just the milk has in from a nursing mother. You can't find it anywhere else, and it gets that baby a certain type of bacteria that is fed in the baby. So the baby gets the bacteria when they pass through the birth canal, and then that bacteria can only thrive from that milk from that mother. And so it causes this bacteria to explode in the intestines of this baby, and it's so healthy for the baby that it gives off a neurotransmitter that calms the baby. And so it's not just that the baby's going to nurse and now the baby's full and so the baby's happy. No, the baby goes into like what we call a milk coma, right? Where they're like, oh, that was so great. And you see that when the bacteria are being fed something that they enjoy, they want to live and survive. And so they do something in this, this partnership that we have to help us. And so they give off something that's good for us because they're happy and they're healthy. And that's where this partnership comes in between our bacteria. And that's just one small example of something that it does. One thing that I really, really love is you can have a bad bacteria in your body. Everybody does. Almost everybody that hears my voice probably has some form of E. coli in their body somewhere. But you're not going to have issues with it if you have a healthy microbiome that is keeping it in check. And that's what you want. You want to be able to keep these things in check. You're not going to get sick of the same things that other people will get sick of. Everyone also, or maybe you get sick for a very short period of time because your microbial uh, system is working together such that it knows that if that bacteria is going to overgrow, it's going to kill it off. And so it doesn't want that competition, right? And so all of these are going to work together. All of these are going to help not only them survive, but you to survive. You're the host. If you die or if you're, a lot of pain or suffering, obviously they're not going to do as well either. So they want you to do
Right.
well. And so that relationship is really important.
It's just amazing how miraculous the human body is, and also how foolish humans tend to be to try to outsmart it or work around it or things like that. It's so interesting, these things you're saying. Since we had our last call, I did a whole bunch more research and you sent me some books. I watched this master class on gut bacteria, gut biome, and it's so fascinating. It's kind of interesting too, because we've actually been talking about this stuff forever, right? They said, Hippocrates said, all disease begins in the gut. The thing I started learning about more too was my biggest issue was depression and anxiety. And I always thought there's something wrong with my brain. It's all centered in the gut. So it all makes sense when you fix those things. Um, One of the things you said, uh, Malia, on our last call that was so interesting and really got a lot of people kind of fired up, was the fact that if you're doing a strict carnivore diet, proper human diet, and you cheat on that diet, it could set you back a long time in terms of, was it feeding the bad gut bacteria or flourishing the bad gut bacteria for a long time? Can we talk about that a little bit more? Because a lot of people had questions on that. A lot of people were like, oh, good, this gives me another reason not to cheat on carnivore. I really didn't know it was going to be that detrimental.
Right. And this is a really big deal with our program. When we have people come through, they're at the sickest of the sick. They're at the point where they've tried everything and they need, real help. And so we have them go through a very intense protocol, and that protocol entails following a die-off. And so what a die-off is when you have a certain type of bacteria that's living in your gut, and it is starved of carbs and sugar, and it will start to give off toxins in the body. And it does that as a last ditch effort. I mean, it's giving off toxins always, but this right before I die off, it'll give off a lot of toxins that can be pretty detrimental. And I give some of that information you said you're going to post below. And I don't want to go into a lot of the detail because some of this micro, biology, stuff can be a little overwhelming for people to read or hear about. But the reality is it gives off toxins that can affect you in a lot of different ways, from mild headaches to insomnia to tachycardia to severe neuropathy pains, all sorts of issues that can be pretty extreme. And that's because when they're in this state where they're starving, they'll do anything they can, and all bacteria. So even bacteria in swamps, they've found that their main way to communicate is through serotonin signaling. They communicate with each other outside the human body through neurotransmitters. That's what they do. And so when you take bacteria that are very highly evolved, they know us better than we know ourselves. And so when you take that bacteria and you put it in you, and they don't want to die, they're going to do everything they can to get your attention. And that can come from food cravings to nightmares to dreams about food. And when you go through this process with us, or as laid out, online, you can find lots of different books that explain this. You have certain die-offs at certain stages. So a 4-week die-off, and then you have different types of bacteria depending, because the bacteria, there can be all sorts of different bacteria in different people. Everyone comes from different backgrounds. They eat different food. But there's a bulk die-off period for different groups of bacteria. And so some can last for up to 3 months without sugars or carbs. Some can last up to 6 months. And depending on the amount of limbic restoration you do, believe it or not, if you are eating the right food, but you are stressed, if you have a stressful job, if you're worried about, certain things in life, that cortisol will cause inflammation that will bolster those bacteria you're trying to kill off. It's a real thing. The studies, show us how important being calm, meditation, doing, limbic restoration exercises and other lifestyle work is key for us to ensure that we're not feeding this bacteria both from sugars and carbs or from cortisol or other, chronic inflammatory, metabolites. And so as you go through this process of experiencing these die-offs, if you happen to decide that you are like, you know what, it's been 6 months, I'm feeling super good, which a lot of people do. I'm like, it's Christmas or it's so-and-so's birthday, I'm just going to eat this. The reality is yes, you're going to feed that bacteria. So you're going to keep whatever issue or whatever problem you're trying to heal alive. And a lot of people don't get that by the time you see a symptom from, some type of chronic illness, you're well past the space of time where it's been causing internal damage. And so just because you might not be feeling a particular symptom doesn't mean you don't still have internal damage occurring. Glycation is very severe. It's basically the key to all metabolic disease. And we can talk about that more later if you want. But eating some sort of food will feed that bacteria that is still causing havoc inside your body and keeping you from getting, the metabolites and the good, healthy neurotransmitters from the good bacteria, because bad bacteria or harmful or opportunistic bacteria will kill off good bacteria because they want the landmass, inside you for themselves. But also, you are creating neural pathways that make you dependent on something and give you that dopamine reaction and cause glycation. So there's a lot of different things that you're doing just by refeeding that. You're not just refeeding a bacteria that is going to cause issues inside you, but you're also you're giving a pattern of behavior, and you're giving your body an amount of sugar. And again, this is probably just as important, that causes so much damage. This does not occur naturally in the human body. And we think that it's okay because it's so socially acceptable. But the reality is that this is probably the number one most damaging thing that societies have started doing since, refineries and processed food and mills, is refined sugar, the damage that it does to the human body.
Right. Yeah, it was so interesting. So Malia's provided a whole bunch of sources and links. It's incredible. Like, I hope it'll fit in the description, but I'm going to have all of that in the description because a lot of people are asking for more information or to dig into some of these things some more. It's so fascinating to me. I've had some people comment and say, well, if you're pretty much already healed your gut on carnivore, is it going to make that big of a difference if you have a little slip up here or there because your gut's healed? Do you have any thoughts on that? Or is it more so, obviously it's very important for people like that are going through your program that have these really difficult autoimmune disorders and issues like that if they slip up. But if someone's pretty healthy and they've kind of fixed their gut already, I don't want to encourage people to do it, but that was a question that I got quite a few times. Is this applicable to everybody?
So coming from someone who was at a point of writing letters to their children saying goodbye, that's not an option for me. Now, everybody's different. If you would have asked me 10 years ago if I knew all this information, and if I was like, oh, every now and then, whatever, you're still going to have damage that's being done in lots of different ways. Can you heal that? Of course. So if someone wanted to do something every 6 months, we really encourage those who've gone through the program, because you've, have experienced something that has affected the neurological system so extensively, to not do that. But that's why I'm saying a lot of people are in a lot of damage and they don't realize it because they're not bedridden, because they're not suffering at the level that our clients have suffered through. They think that it's okay. And that is one thing that I do want to say. If I'm the only voice out there saying it, I'm gonna tell you it's not okay physiologically. And this goes to, and this is where I'll just explain. And I'm not sure if your listeners are familiar with this. I'm sure a lot of the doctors that you've had on here there is a process called glycation that occurs in the body when you take in sugars. And there's certain bacteria that thrive on it, that this is what they want you to eat because it causes so much damage and inflammation that they're able to get in every area of your body by you taking this in. But glycation is the process of taking in a form of glucose, so sugar, whether it's processed foods, whether it's just white sugar, syrups, whatever, where you're taking in this, and then it wreaks havoc on the body. It basically goes in and it glues itself to a lipid or a protein or DNA, and there's nothing you can do about it. Now, there's a natural process called glycosylation, and that's where the body, the liver. So those of you who are, carnivore 100%, your body still creates a small amount of glucose. The liver does. Because glucose is good for going in and doing particular things enzymatically. So you have enzymes that go in and say, I need to build this amino acid DNA structure over here. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to take a little bit of glucose, glucose basically acts like a glue. And I'm going to glue these things together, and I'm going to fold this amino acid this way, and it's going to cause this reaction in the body. It's a catalyst. It's a way of doing something in the body, these enzymes. And the difference between the natural way and the other way is, it's like if my husband came into the kitchen, he's like, I need to get some, super glue. I'd be like, sure, here. He's going to fix something I had broken in the house. But if my 1-year-old came in and grabbed the super glue, I'd be like, oh my gosh, they're going to ruin everything, right? And that's what happens with when we eat sugar. Is this free floating sugar goes in and damages cells everywhere in your blood. It goes right into your blood. It damages cells. It damages everything that it touches. It changes the way that the cells speak to each other, because it coats the outside of cells. So your liver will actually send, people worry about LDL or, HDL and the way that our cholesterol works. And the reality is it works great when there's no sugar in the blood. But when sugar's in the blood, it damages those little casings of fat. So whether it's, HDL, whatever, and it's supposed to be recycled and go back to the liver. But when it gets back to the liver, the outside of it's damaged. It's supposed to connect in with the liver, and the liver can read it and say, oh, I know what you are. I'm going to take you back up and we're going to reuse you. But when it's damaged, the liver can't read it. And now you've got this free floating, cholesterol, and it continues to degrade, and then it builds up on the walls. And I mean, that's just one of thousands and thousands of ways that taking in sugar damages the body. And eventually it turns into an advanced glycation, end product or ages. And that's where you get diabetes, you get all the, metabolic disorders that are really, really hard to heal, because it's like pouring a bunch of that super glue into a clock. At first, things are going to move, but eventually they're going to harden up, like the arteries and other things, and it can't function. And so me knowing that, and my clients knowing that, we choose, it's not healthy. It's not good. I don't want to do it. And so we personally choose not to. Now, does that mean that, nobody should? I'm not judging anyone. Does that mean I've never eaten anything? No, I'm pretty sure we just traveled for a month, moving. And I'm pretty sure I've eaten out, and there's been sugars in some sauces and stuff, which we try to avoid. So I don't want people to feel like, oh, if I've eaten something, well, now that's it. It's over and I might as well, whatever. No, if you choose and that's what you want to eat stuff, go ahead, eat stuff, But for me personally, I want to be around for my kids. I've had, grandparents on both sides that have died of diabetes. I want to get out of bed and not have my joints hurt. Sugar causes horrific inflammation in the joints, not just the lectins and other plant toxins. I would rather eat lectins than eat sugar. That's how damaging sugar is. And I don't like being a slave to something personally. I don't like feeling like I really want that. I don't like that. And when you eat fats and proteins, I know that you know this, you feel good after. Like when I eat a good healthy meal that I was meant to eat, I feel good after, I have energy. I don't need to go lay down. And that's how the body's meant to react. When you have to go lay down or you're tired after eating, it's because your body literally has to shut down every other aspect of its processes, because it can't handle what you just did to it. Right? And I don't want to do that. I personally don't want to do that. Now, does that mean it's not hard? It's super hard. We're living in a world that is not conducive to a healthy human being. But I also know that my personal decisions will affect my kids. And being a parent, I mean, I'm sure, Carrie, you agree, like that affects everything. And so, yeah, maybe I could have a couple cheat days. It's not a big deal. But I really feel like my kids would look at that and they go, well, mom didn't. She was somewhat fine. So why don't I? And then that just is a domino effect. So for me personally, reasons why I wouldn't do that. But does it mean someone's going to die, right away if they do it? Of course not. This is a personal journey. You know, we give you the
Right.
information, choose to do with it what you want.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on all of that. I was so sick that I don't want to mess with any of it. I'm praying for God, like give me any answer, and I found it. So the other thing I've learned, I've interviewed so many carnivores and just thousands and thousands of comments. People that have had the cheat day, not one of them has ever had the cheat day and then the next day said, "Gee, I'm glad I did that. I
I
feel
feel
better now." They always regret it every single time. And the other thing is just learning more about this is like what we're doing now is returning to what's natural for humans. Throughout since the start of time, most of it we would have been eating like we're eating right now. We wouldn't even have the opportunity to eat these weird chemical concoctions we have now. um, for
right.
me too, it's just you said this, some people don't know how sick they are, or they're like, "Oh, I'm just fine." Well, really? Like, how much better could you feel? People walk, the majority of humanity right now is walking around in brain fog and they're saying, "I'm just fine." You don't know what you don't know until you get through it. For me, like not cheating as well is about what happens when I hit 2 years on carnivore and I haven't cheated and like my gut bacteria is as optimal as it could possibly be. How good am I going to feel then? Like, I'm not going to know if I have those cheat days in the meantime. So, speaking of the gut health, Malia, what if we look at like the collective gut of humanity? How is it looking for most of the world right now?
Oh, it's a painful question. It is really, really sad. So I'll give you an example. So there, appendicitis was something that was not very common. And people still, I've talked to doctors in the last 6 months. I've talked to doctors who I asked what is the purpose of the appendix, and they're like, oh, it's we don't use it, we don't need it. It's just like, oh my gosh, like, and so this is something I'll repeat this again. So we talked about this when we first started. So our biggest issue is when we as a people look back on history and we think, oh, they screwed up, you know, bloodletting, leeches, whatever, that was so wrong. But we know what we're doing now. Like, we got this, right? And the problem there is we're not in a state of learning or questioning what's going on around us. We're in a state of we're right, in a state of pride, and just accepting whatever someone in authority says. And that is what occurred with every other group of people in every other generation that were poisoned by mercury, that were poisoned by lead, that were told that, you know, if they let someone drill into the center of their child's skull, into the frontal lobe, it would stop them from being hyperactive, and then their child's a vegetable. Electro, you know, therapy, all of these things, and there's thousands, literally so much. And we thought, no, we know we're smart, and so we had to step back, and we can't do that because I was talking to you earlier about one of the leading neurologists. He's a brain surgeon. He's on a board, you know, of neurology, and he was asked, you know, what percentage of our current educational system of academia, you know, doctors who are coming in pre-med, you know, students that are learning, what percentage of what they're learning is correct? And he said point blank, at least 50% is absolutely wrong, and it's been proven wrong.
Mm.
And it was shocking. And the interviewer was saying, well, why? Why are we doing something? He's like, it's almost impossible. One, it takes, you know, 30, 40, 50 years to change a publicly accepted or understood belief of something. I mean, look at cigarettes. Like, I mean, that's just something that doctors said were totally good. And even when it came out that they weren't good, nobody stopped, you know. But it takes so long to change a belief when a whole society has it very firmly entrenched. You have to kill off a generation or two. You literally do. My dysautonomia doctor, who's an amazing guy, he's a cardiologist. He's like, I want to, you know, he's carnivore diet, all of these things. He's like, I really want to break into all of this, but I can't practice here because these doctors who have been working for, you know, above me, you know, because you have to be a part of a board, and everyone has to agree unless you have your own practice. Um, there's no way they'll accept this information. They've been doing this for 30, 40 years. There is no way that they will do any of this new. And so you literally have to have generations of people die to have a new idea or new concept come in that is this drastic. And so this neurologist was explaining, you know, that the information, the studies that have come out proving so many of the practices incorrect. The journals and all of that is completely disconnected from the doctors who are being trained and are coming in and who are talking to you as a mother and telling you to do things, or as a father, or whatever. And you're not going to get that trickle down effect. These doctors are not working all day in their practice and then going home and reading all the modern studies and implementing new things. They're not. They're coming home at 3 or 4 o'clock and they're going golfing, or they're whatever. They're a typical human being. They just want to make money. And so when you're talking about, understanding how we're practicing things in a world, how whether we're healthy or not, whether we really are heading in the right direction, when it comes to our gut microbes, I want to go back to the appendicitis. So in the appendix, the purpose of the appendix is to house biofilm. So biofilm is an incredibly dense group of bacteria, fungi, protozoa, all sorts that are working together, and they can be healthy and they can be unhealthy. But it is your body's way of keeping this bacteria here. So if you're severely ill, if something really bad happens, the body goes through a stage of diarrhea and vomiting. And so it's to get out whatever it is, to completely cleanse it. Your appendix is there to repopulate as quickly as possible your entire digestive tract with the most healthy, beneficial bacteria, so that you can get not only the depression, you can get all the neural transmitters back online as quickly as possible. You can heal the gut. You need the bacteria to heal the gut as quickly as possible. You need all of this immediately, especially after coming out of a sickness where you've probably been deprived of nutrients and vitamins and things like that. And so they're going in and they're just taking out appendixes instead of figuring out, what's causing the illness. And what they're seeing is that the leading cause of the illness is when you have people eating high sugar, high carb, very processed foods. And we're seeing a lot of this in teenagers. My daughter's 17-year-old friend just had her appendix out. And that was unheard of. And it's the diet that they're eating is causing the severe overgrowth. And then the appendix is overworked. The appendix cannot feed the healthy bacteria in fast enough with this overgrowth occurring. And then the overgrowth moves into the appendix. And so now you've got this severely inflamed appendix. It can't get rid of toxins. It can't move anything through. Now, there are natural ways to handle this with someone who understands these aspects. But if you do get to the point where you have appendicitis and you're in a hospital, there is no doctor that's going to try to go, okay, well, let's give you probiotics and let's get you a lot of water so your lymph nodes can work this through, and let's put heat packs on it to ensure that this doesn't burst and calm down the area. That's not going to happen. They're just going to rip it out. And studies show that these young, very young people will now be prone to continuous infections. Their immune system will be very weak for the rest of their lives. And that's just one area. When you ask how we are globally, I know that was a long roundabout answer, but that's just one area of what the food we're eating, how it's affecting the gut microbial, interactions, and the severe, deteriorating effects. When you do have some inflammation or some sickness in the wrong area, now you have no appendix. Now you have no way for your body to go in and get that bacteria to all the areas it needs as quickly as possible. Your body has no way to do it now. There's a reason for an appendix, just like there's a reason for tonsils, but they were taking those out in the 1970s and 1980s like it was free, and they're just popping them out from everybody, and then everyone's getting sick.
Today's video is sponsored proudly by ButcherBox. They recently launched a new initiative where you can support your local USA American farmers. Support American farmers with this new US pasture-raised beef from ButcherBox. This is USDA choice meat. Look at this ribeye. It's absolutely fantastic. The cows are never in feedlots. They're pasture raised. There's no antibiotics, no hormones. You're supporting a local American farmer. I get so many people asking me, how can I do that? Now you can do it with ButcherBox. There's more details, including a really special offer if you use the link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Now back to today's video.
So it's not looking really
right. Well, I've been going sort of down the rabbit hole after our last video together and learning more. Like, one of the things I feel is a big problem in humanity is overusing antibiotics just for any reason. I got the sniffles, here's some antibiotics. And if I understand it correctly, that destroys the good gut bacteria and the bad gut bacteria. And even some like normal doctors that overprescribe those, I've had them over the years where they warn me like, this isn't good, but maybe just take it for a little while. One of the things I've learned recently, I've been going down the rabbit hole on glyphosate. And we interviewed Dr. Ken Berry for our documentary. One of the things he said is every time you eat a bowl of cereal, you're ingesting glyphosate. And I was listening to this other guy, Dr. Bush, I think his name was, on YouTube, and he was talking about glyphosate. He's like, it's everywhere. It's in the water. It's in the air. If you go outside right now and test the air, you're probably ingesting glyphosate. And one of the things I learned is glyphosate is actually, if you Google it, it's an antibiotic. So what is that doing to our guts if on a mass scale, all of humanity is just chronically consuming glyphosate, even if it's at these little small levels for days, months, years, decades, over and over again? Like, what is that doing to our gut health? It can't be good.
No, not at all. And to your first point, most doctors don't understand how antibiotics really work, because antibiotics is only going to kill one specific strain of exactly one thing if you get it right to that area. And the majority, I think it's like 3%. When you prescribe one antibiotic, 3% chance that it's going to get that one bacteria, if you even had that one bacteria. And a lot of times they're, of course, prescribing for a virus, which viruses constantly mutate. And so it's impossible to have it. And so it's really horrific what they're doing when it comes to antibiotics. And I think that the main reason that it is that way is because of fear. Everyone is so scared of an infection. I kid you not. We as a people need to stop being scared and stop being manipulated by fear, because that is the main reason why you run to a hospital. I mean, giving birth in a hospital, I know people think I'm crazy, but no, that was not something that needed to be done. And going in because your kid has an ear infection, or going in because your kid has this cut, or going in because your kid is coughing a whole lot. Okay, that's normal. Every illness that your child gets before the age of 7 is extremely good for your child's body. A lot of times the body will sit back and let the entire illness move through, the bacteria move through, because then the other bacteria in the body will help mark and target that bacteria. And when the immune system, which before the age of 3, babies naturally put everything in their mouths. That's not just because that's how they're sensing things. It's because their body needs to get as much bacteria into their system as possible, because then their immune system will be trained. And so their bacteria goes in, their immune system tags it, goes, okay, healthy, harmful, not good. All right, great. It needs to get as much, but now we wash their hands, we pick them up off the ground, don't let them touch the dirt. They need to touch as much as they possibly can. The studies show that children who touch farm animals, who before the age of 3, who are going in and out of different areas, touching the ground and such in homesteads, they have no allergies. They have extremely low cases of cancer and other autoimmune diseases, because their immune system has been trained by those bacteria. It's very, very, very important for the bacteria to be trained.